feel like I say this in every video. I'm still adjusting to the fact that I'm living in an apartment where the walls are like literally thin as paper. Like I can hear my my neighbor's like phone buzz at night. When people are like scraping the ice off their cars outside, I can hear it. So I know they can hear every word I'm saying. But you know, I'm just gonna ignore it and hope that they don't realize that I'm filming for a YouTube video. Hi, let's talk about the books I read in January. It was actually quite a good reading month for me. Like, I think I told you guys, yeah, I did tell you guys, I got a new job where I work in a bookstore, and it's about half an hour walk each way, and I do like to walk because it's nice to have that time to myself, and that means that I've just been like, what was that? I've just been consuming a lot of audiobooks. I don't know why I had to make it weird like that for you. I'm sorry. Also, I cut my hair. Well, when I say I cut my hair, Nicole cut my hair. That'll be a video later this month, just a wee one, but there's this charity that, like, if you send them like your hair, they can use it to make these mats that they use to soak up oil spills in the ocean. So snip snip. First, I read How to Kill a City by P.E. Moskowitz. This was a book that examined gentrification and how it's happened in Detroit, New Orleans, San Francisco, and New York City. And it also talks about like the implications of and the complexity of gentrification in a detailed sort of way that I'd never really thought about before. Like it really takes it from all perspectives, and I really recommend it. It's definitely a dense read, but I found it to be well worth the time and the effort that you're gonna have to put into it. It taught me a lot about, like, in regards to the displacement of minority groups, the housing crisis in the United States. I do highly recommend that, although it is sad, and it is quite, like, it's very heavy reading. Next, I read Orange is Not the Only Fruit by Jeanette Winterson. I've been trying to get around to reading this book for ages. It had the same kind of prose writing as Carmen Maria Machado, which means that it was beautiful, show-stopping, spectacular, amazing. Very lyrical and just lovely, really. It's a novel, which is kind of a little bit of an autobiographical novel. Not a little bit, it's basically an autobiographical novel about growing up as a lesbian and in a very, very religious family in England in like the 40s and 50s, I think. I do recommend it, although I feel like everyone and their mother's already read it. Next, I read Pale Rider, the 1918 Flu Pandemic and How It Changed the World by Laura Spinney. This is another nonfiction book. For some reason, I was feeling nonfiction this month in a way I normally don't, but it was fascinating. I know that we're really not taught much about the 1918 flu pandemic. In fact, the only thing that I know about it is that it's what killed Edward from Twilight. Moment of silence for that. But this really made me think about, because obviously we've all been thinking like long term, what's to come in terms of that which shall not be named, and like the socioeconomic and like just general long-term ramifications in our society, and reading about how the 1918 pandemic impacted everything was super cool. I mean, cool isn't the right word, but it was awesome. Nope, awesome isn't the right word either. I found it scintillating. Next, I read Last Night at the Viper Room, River Phoenix and the Hollywood He Left Behind by Gavin Edwards. This was obviously like about River Phoenix and the life he led before he died at a young age. It was good. It was average. It talked more about the other actors of the time than I had anticipated it doing. But you know, I didn't really know anything about River Phoenix, and I'd always wanted to learn because he was kind of like this looming figure a little bit. So I did get what I came for, and also I think this book did a really good job of not idolizing like River. I think it made him a real human, flawed person. Next, I read Stitches and Witches by Nancy Warren. This is a cozy mystery. It's the series is called The Vampire Knitting Club, and it's absolutely delightful. Just so fun. I recommended it to Katie from Katie's Cuddly Book World, although I think she might be Katie Faye now. I will link her channel down below. My girl like shouted me out in one of her last videos, and I deadass cried. She's awesome, so I will link her video down below. But anyways, cozy mysteries. It's the second book in a series that's like based in a knitting shop, and there's witches and vampires and there's murder, and it's heartwarming in a way you wouldn't anticipate murder being. Next, Why Be Happy When You Could Be Normal by Jeanette Winterson. Remember how I told you that Orange is Not the Only Fruit is like a autobiographical novel. This is basically just the autobiography of the story. There are a lot of, you can really tell how distinctly Winterson like drew from her personal life. This was also amazing. So if you like Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit, then I think you will like the memoir, but it is also sad because at least like with a novel you have some chance of distancing yourself from what she experiences, but with like a memoir like this you really can't. So it was definitely at times a rough read, but I do recommend it. Next, I reread The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I meant to do this last year because, you know, 2020, new year, new me, new year, new decade, roaring 20s, whatever. Then things happened and I didn't. But I reread it and it was about what I remembered. It does get like a lot of praise in the literary community, and you don't need me to tell you to read it because every English teacher you've ever had and every like 100 books you need to read before you die list already has told you. So what I will say is that there are a couple really good lines in it, like really beautiful sentences that I'm like, damn, like F. Scott could write. Okay, I see you. It also really does a good job of capturing the strangeness and like extravagance of the 20s. I really like the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio that's like the iteration of this book because I think it does such an excellent job of like capturing what the book itself was like. And also, I didn't notice this the first time I read it, but I was also like 16. I was really interested by the like American bootstraps narrative that goes along with like J. Gatsby, that I wish we discussed more when I had read it in class, in high school. But now, you know, she gone, so I reread it, it's over, it's done. Next, I read Kata Witch by Nadea Okorafor. This was incredible. I read this as an audiobook. It is set in Nigeria and it is focusing on a black girl with albinism who is Nigerian, moved to the United States, grew up in the United States, and then moved back to Nigeria, and it deals with like magic, and it's so cool. I think that the writing of it and the world building is just beautiful, and I'll tell you what Ursula K. Le Guin said, because if you don't respect her, you don't respect anyone. There's more vivid imagination in a page of Nadea Okorafor's work than in whole volumes of ordinary fantasy epics. That's all you need to know. If you're into fantasy, read this book. Amazing. Also, I love the cover of it. I think it's super cool. Next, I read No Exit by Taylor Adams. This was absolutely bonkers. I read it in one sitting. Didn't mean to. I had work the next day, but once I started, I just couldn't stop. It's an incredible thriller with just twists and turns, and my stomach was like turning along with the story. Really good. Next, I read Lady Susan by Jane Austen. This was just a quick little read, a little epistolary novel action. It's about a 30-year-old, so decrepit widow trying to gain the affections and marriage of this very kind but very foolish young man. And his family's like, bro, you're so dumb, open your eyes. And he's like, I do not perceive it, so it's not real. Also, Lady Susan has a daughter who really gets screwed in the whole affair. I mean, it was a Jane Austen book, so what can I do but recommend it? Finally, I read, or I should say reread, From the Mixed Up Files of Basil E. Frankweiler by E.L. Konigsberg. This was one of my favorite books as a kid. I read it so many times, and I had spent ages trying to remember what the title of it was, because all I could remember was that it was these two kids that ran away from home and ran away and lived in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. That was all I could remember. And now that I finally found it, I reread it, and it was just so nice and warm and nostalgic. And this was one of those books that, again, I'd read so many times that a lot of the lines had like seared themselves into my memory. Like the second I read the first word, I was like, I know what's coming. I know what's here. So I think it is quite a good book, especially I think it held up quite well. I don't know if the nostalgia is really what's doing it for me right now. But if you happen across it, it's a quick, fun little read. So yeah, I think my laundry's ready for me now, so I'm gonna have to go. But I love you all very much. I hope you're doing well. Tell me how your January was in the comments below. What did you read that you enjoyed? Is your February getting off to a good start? Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you very soon. Bye.